At 14:17 hours 45 miles north of the Venezuelan coast, two heavily armed Venezuelan Su-30MK2 Flanker fighter jets streaked toward the USS Gerald R. Under the codename Viper 1, they received orders from Caracas target the U.S. Navy flagship and assert sovereignty over the airspace. The aircraft, flying just 500 feet above the water, appeared aggressive, defiant, and completely unaware that as soon as they crossed the 30-mile threshold, they had entered the perfectly mapped kill zone of the most powerful ship in history. As the flight lead, Colonel Ramirez, pushed the throttle forward for the final low pass, he was about to learn why challenging a U.S. carrier strike group was an extremely foolish idea. There was no room for error. Time remaining 75 seconds until the Aegis system issued its final warning. This was no random act of provocation. It was the flashpoint of a simmering Cold War-style confrontation across the Caribbean, challenging U.S. naval power, a situation that many veterans who lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis would recognize immediately. The arrival of the USS Gerald R. along with its powerful strike group, the most advanced naval formation on the planet, including the guided missile cruiser USS Normandy and two Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. The USS Thomas Hudner and USS Truxtun represents the largest U.S. military buildup in the region since 1962. This unprecedented deployment is called Joint Task Force Southern Spear, an operation ostensibly focused on counter-narcotics and targeting transnational criminal organizations such as Venezuela's Cartel de los Soles. But everyone from the Pentagon to the crew aboard the Ford understands the strategic objective: a sustained systematic pressure campaign targeting the regime of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. The stakes are enormous, far beyond the issue of illegal drug trafficking. We are talking about the security of a critical global strategic choke point, the Panama Canal, the stability of energy supplies for the entire Western Hemisphere, and a direct challenge to U.S. influence in a region Washington considers its essential backyard. The U.S. has demonstrated its power through precision strikes, carrying out more than 20 targeted attacks on smuggling facilities, resulting in the elimination of at least 80 individuals linked to the regime's illegal activities. This is a dynamic, clear, and systematic campaign designed to undermine the regime's financial and operational pillars. Maduro predictably responded by ordering a largely symbolic mobilization of the country's outdated military forces, desperately attempting to project strength. His fundamental objective was simple: to force a dangerous public confrontation in international waters, the ultimate act of political theater to paint the United States as an out-of-control aggressor. It was this reckless calculation that brought two Soviet-era Sukhoi jets flying at maximum speed close to a $13 billion nuclear-powered warship. The question for the commanders in the Ford's C&C system was how the force, built on decades of technological and doctrinal perfection, would deliver the most indisputable, impressive, and non-lethal message possible. The opponent in this aerial chess game is Venezuela's Fighter Group 11, operating a fleet of Russian-made Sukhoi Su-30MK2 multi-role fighter jets that are rapidly deteriorating. Although it looks formidable, this fleet is a hollow shell compared to its expected capabilities, constantly battling corrosion from the sea air and severe spare part shortages due to sanctions. Their political motivation is a desperate geopolitical challenge, challenging U.S. aggression within their claimed sphere of influence. Their combat strategy for this confrontation is copied directly from the Soviet playbook of the 1980s, a classic example of Cold War saber-rattling flying: low, flying fast, looking scary, creating radar interference, and forcing U.S. commanders to back down. But they made a fundamental mistake. They were flying a heavy, complex jet primarily designed for long-range air combat, attempting high-speed coastal flights against a system specifically designed to counter multi-axis missile and aircraft attacks. The Su-30MK2 is a huge aircraft, and that sheer size is precisely what makes it a large, easy-to-track target for an advanced system like the AN/SPY-6 radar. They relied entirely on raw speed and visual presence to win. What they didn't realize was that the Ford's Combat Information Center CIC calculated their actual threat level not based on speed, but on their outdated N001V multi-mode radar and completely predictable flight path. The Ford had achieved fire control lock on them long before they were even a detectable blip on the Venezuelan radar screens. The real secret the adversary possesses is not advanced technology. It is the desperate political will to accept a huge risk. The U.S. response had been compiled, rehearsed, and perfected over more than 70 years of maintaining control of global maritime regions, and it was about to be executed with a cold efficiency and discipline that left no room for political grandstanding. These pilots, trained with simulation time far exceeding actual flight hours, are about to face a terrifying real-world flight test they never wanted. The core of the Forward Strike Group's defense system is 4 networked escort ships led by the guided missile destroyer USS Thomas Hudner. Hudner is equipped with the Air and Missile Defense Radar AMDR and SPY-6 V1. Unlike the older SPI-1 system, SPI-6 is an active electronically scanned array AESA, a literal digital wall capable of tracking a baseball-sized object at a range of 400 km with 10 times the capability of previous systems. The moment the 2 Venezuelan Su-30s activated their outdated radars and began heading toward the combat group's perimeter, SPY-6 compiled a perfect tracking file and simultaneously transmitted that highly refined data package to the entire combat group via Cooperative Engagement Capability (CEC). This meant that the Ford, the Normandy, and the other destroyers all instantly had the same comprehensive, crystal-clear tracking picture. Inside the Ford's CIC, the sailors were intensely focused. The Tactical Action Officer TAO has systematically prepared 4 distinct layers of defense. The outer layer consists of 2 FA-18EF Super Hornets performing combat air patrol cap duties deployed high and forward, completely invisible to the enemy Soviet-era radar warning receiver RWR systems. The second and third layers are the destroyer's massive missile arsenals, including Standard Missile 2 SM-2 and Short-Range RIM-162 Evolved Sea Sparrow. A missile ESSM. The ESSM, the weapon of choice for this tactic, is a supersonic defense missile traveling at Mach 4 and specifically designed to take down high-speed sea-skimming targets. The destroyers positioned in a tight protective circle to maximize the kill zone, opened and prepared their vertical launch systems VLS, each tube containing multiple ESSM missiles ready for immediate launch. And the final layer is the close-in weapon system CIWS, a 20mm Gatling gun firing 4 500 rounds per minute, which Commander Hall hopes will never have to be used. The system, utilizing the entire network of connected sensors, calculated the optimal interception point, the precise moment the aircraft would cross the 12-mile sovereignty limit, and responded with minimal force to send the strongest message possible. Tension inside Hudner's CIC reached its peak when the arrogant Major Ramirez ignored 3 separate radio warnings broadcast in both Spanish and English from the lead escort destroyer USS Bainbridge. The deliberate silence and intentional disregard for maritime rules was the last straw. 60 seconds later, the Venezuelan jets crossed the 25-mile line, committing a public hostile act under the rules of engagement, ROE. The moment they entered that red zone, Commander Hall ordered Execute Alpha. Immediately, 2 FA-18E Super Hornets flying at 25,000 feet, completely invisible to the flanker's radar, broke radio silence and locked their powerful APG-79 AESA radars onto the approaching enemy aircraft. Inside the cockpit of the lead Su-30, the radar warning receiver RWR began to wail, a shrill screech, signaling that it was being locked onto by a superior fire control radar. Ramirez, shocked, banked his heavy Sukhoi hard to the left, attempting to break the lock with a dangerous high-speed sea-skimming maneuver. This violent sudden action, a clear sign of panic in combat, was the absolute turning point of the entire confrontation. 40 seconds, the USS Thomas Hudner, based on its own rules and internal assessments, determined the threat was imminent, and as a minimal force response to avoid war, the forward VLS launcher fired the first RM-162 ESSM missile. The missile, a 12-foot-long cylinder, immediately accelerated to Mach 4, a speed the aging flanker could not match. It was not a kill shot, but a calculated demonstration of absolute capability without loss of life. 15 seconds later, the high-altitude Super Hornets launched a series of programmed decoys and flares, a final distraction to overload the Sukhoi's limiting systems. The flanker pilot saw the ESSM heading toward his number 2 pilot. The missile was programmed to detonate precisely 250 feet in front of the Sukhoi's nose, where the explosion would not cause serious structural damage but would create a complete, overwhelming system shock. The resulting supersonic boom slammed into the Sukhoi's airframe, rattling every bolt, popping the cockpit canopy seals, and overwhelming the pilot's senses. The number 2 engine choked for a moment, the digital display flashing the terrifying warning, "Flame out." The warning was unmistakable. The U.S. Navy could have vaporized them at any moment with a weapon they didn't even see launched. Their adversaries had granted them a violent reprieve, demonstrating complete control. The immediate consequence of Execution Alpha was a large uncontrolled turn by the two panicked Venezuelan pilots. The ESSM warning shot instantly turned their show-off flight into a retreat. Both Su-30s immediately lost contact, heading southwest at maximum speed, their political mission a complete failure. They arrived to demonstrate strength and defiance. They departed in chaos. The U.S. won the confrontation without losing a single life, fully adhering to complex rules of engagement while sending an undeniable message of overwhelming strength. The cost to the Venezuelan Air Force was enormous, including a major overhaul for the stalled engine of the second aircraft, numerous high-value sensor arrays that need to be replaced in a system for which spare parts are no longer available, and perhaps most importantly, a complete psychological fracture of confidence throughout the Air Force command structure. For the American sailors aboard the Ford, the massive ship maintained its precise course and speed, returning to normal flight operations within minutes, the incident considered nothing more than a temporary disturbance. Professionalism was the true strength on display. The calm on the Ford's bridge just moments after a potentially international incident underscored the confidence that comes from knowing your technology and training are simply in a different league than the entire Air Force of your adversary. The final lesson from this tense Caribbean standoff is a profound one about asymmetric warfare and the true cost of ill-advised challenges. The lesson is simple, and it applies globally. Never bring a tactical challenge to a strategic war built on technological and doctrinal dominance. President Maduro and his commanders sought a political victory, but what they received was a comprehensive lesson in integrated technical and psychological power. The USS Gerald R Ford Strike Group is not just a collection of ships and aircraft. It is a unified, connected war machine augmented by artificial intelligence, where the sensors of one ship instantly become the weapons of another. This controlled, flawless clinical display of force sends a clear warning not only to Caracas, but to every other regional power, whether operating in the South China Sea or the Black Sea, who believes they can use outdated equipment and bravado to challenge the international order. The world's sea lanes will remain open, and the global commons will remain free, but they will be protected by those who have mastered the technology, discipline, and unwavering will to maintain peace through overwhelming and calculated force. In modern warfare, the speed of information sharing is more important than the speed of a bullet. What do you think is the deeper meaning of this deployment? Is this simply a matter of drug gangs, or is this the ultimate test of American resolve in a contested region demanding a Cold War-level response? Share your thoughts in the comments section below.